So a lot of talk about MVP, NFL MVP, early talk about MVP. I don't remember us talking MVP the way we are now, 2 weeks into the season. It's crazy.
Right.
And you mentioned Dak. We saw Dak. You know, he's by the way, NFC Offensive Player of the Week the last week, 400 yards passing, 3 rushing touchdowns. I don't believe anybody ever done that before. So we'll see if he keeps it up and he's in the MVP conversation. But right now, he is my runaway leader for NFL Man of the Year. And let's talk about pulling back the curtain, like you always say. So when we were preparing to launch this show 2 weeks ago, that was when my former colleague at ESPN, he's now at Fox Sports 1, Skip Bayless, made his, I'm not even going to say unfortunate comments, and I'll come back to that. I'll come back to it. Not unfortunate.
And I know where you're going with it, too. Yeah, good. You're right.
Yep.
You're right.
Made his comments basically calling Dak weak for admitting that he struggled in the offseason after his brother's suicide, struggled with depression and anxiety, especially in a pandemic. Gave the interview to my man, Graham Bensinger, a longtime friend of mine. But Dak was very vulnerable, very open, very transparent about his struggles with mental health. And Skip Bayless went on television and called him weak. That led to a lot of people not only supporting Dak, but condemning Skip Bayless, and rightfully so, which led to Sunday. If you haven't seen it, I can't get enough of it. I'm going to start with Sunday, then I'm going to go to yesterday, Michael, so follow me here. But let's see. Sunday, after the game, after the Falcons completely collapsed against the Cowboys, tight end Hayden Hurst ran up to Dak Prescott and said this, roll it.
Hey, I got a lot of respect for what you did. Came out and talked about it. Me and my mom have a foundation about suicide prevention.
Yeah.
I respect the hell out of you for talking about it, man.
Collab one day.
Absolutely.
I mean, in those circumstances, after a heartbreaking loss, Hayden Hurst, just context, he's battled addiction, and he's attempted to commit suicide in 2016 while he was still at the University of South Carolina. His uncle and cousin committed suicide. So that's where that was coming from with Hayden Hurst, and he mentioned his parents' foundation. I'll get back to him in a second. But before we get into the conversation, Michael, now I want to fast forward to yesterday. And a reporter asked Aaron Rodgers, one of the faces and voices of the NFL, asked Aaron Rodgers about Dak Prescott's sharing of his struggles with mental health and the fallout from the Skip Bayless comments. So here's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of players across the sporting leagues who spoke out. You know, I know that Kevin Love said some things a few years ago, and at the time, I remember some of the responses to it. There's a weird stigma around it. There's almost weakness to either ask for help or to admit you're struggling with things, or admit thoughts you might have, that negative thoughts about yourself. I think this strength is taking care of yourself and taking care of your mind and understanding how important your thoughts are, because they become things, and understanding how important positivity is and your attitude, and waking up each day with the right focus and the right mindset, and taking time to be quiet during your day, and whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, and still your mind, allow your brain to rewire itself and change change the outlook of the cells in your body, get them to get out of protection mode and into growth mode. I think it's great. When I saw what Dak said, I applaud him. I think it's phenomenal speaking out, because that's true courage and that's true strength. It's not a weakness at all. It's not, and anybody who attacks it, that has other people's opinions of ourselves have really nothing to do with us. That's a great line I heard. And other people's opinions of Dak has nothing to do with him. Those are their own insecurities about their inability to deal with their own, probably. And I applaud Dak, and I think Hurst as well had some words for him after the game. I think it's a beautiful thing when people start talking about it, because I think at the bare minimum, it makes you more relatable to people, that we have the same struggles and the same issues and the same desires to grow and change and see things in a better, positive light that so many people out there do. And I think the more that we can connect with people, especially on conversations like this you're talking about, Matt, I think the better our society can be moving forward as a connected society built around love and positivity.
I mean, seriously. So thank
Great
you,
answer.
Courtney. I asked Courtney and Gary, I wanted that entire answer. Aaron Rodgers just gave literally an impromptu therapy session, a clinic, a playbook on mental health. He gave you tips about quieting your mind, about positivity and rewiring your brain cells. I'm taking notes. Michael, the beauty of that commentary from Aaron Rodgers, the beauty of what Hayden Hurst did and saying, hey, and Dak Prescott's response was, let's collab on something. We have no idea. When I say God only knows, I mean God only knows the lives that moment between Hurst and Prescott and whatever collaboration they do between foundations and what Aaron Rodgers just said, God only knows the lives that will touch, change, and save just because of this ongoing conversation. That's why I said Skip Bayless's comments weren't necessarily unfortunate because it kept the important conversation going.
Yeah, because it opened up all these lines of communication. And I would think that, first of all, going back to Skip's comments, wow, he could have stopped at this. Dak Prescott was depressed over his brother's suicide. Stop. Right there. That is a very human. Of course he was. Of course that is something that you're trying to process and you're trying to understand. Of course, so many questions. Nobody should scrutinize that. That's not up for scrutiny. That's not fair game. So, Mike, I thought just right there he was out of bounds. But to take it even further and say, well, as a quarterback, you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, you can't have those emotions. I think that's ridiculous. And furthermore, I think anybody in the public eye, irony, anybody in the public eye, that would be somebody like Skip Bayless or somebody like Dak Prescott or Aaron Rodgers could benefit from therapy and focusing on mental health. Why? Because you are subject to someone giving an opinion on you every single day. Every day, somebody has something to say about you. Now, you can try to compartmentalize, but I don't think that's realistic. You can say, hey, they don't really know me. They're talking about Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson. They're talking about the quarterback of the team, but they're not talking about the real me. But we know, Mike, that takes a toll on you.
Oh, yeah.
So I think everybody, whether you're a professional athlete or not, I think therapy is such a important, essential thing just to understand what's going on inside of you, to understand why you make the certain decisions that you make. And it could be certain patterns that you have. Yeah. It's almost like kind of like doing your own anthropology, just kind of going in there and just being reflective and thinking, oh, that's why. That's why I continue to make these decisions. And it just opens up so many other things for you and puts you more at peace.
Can I come back to that? Do you mind? I want to park that for a second.
Yeah, park right there on that curve.
I didn't see that tweet from that. Look at Hayden Hurst. Let's make a difference, brother.
Keep the car running.
Keep it running. Keep the meter running there. Because I want to go, I don't want to forget it, but there's a lot of things I want to cover. You said a lot there, a lot of great stuff that I want to unpack a little bit more. Let's start with just the conversation, which is as important a conversation as being had in professional sports right now as that of mental health. And you've had people like Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan, the NBA, as usual, being the blackest league and quite honestly the most progressive league. I think those two things very much go hand in hand.
At times. But anyway, I'm listening. At times.
I'm talking about just in terms of some of the conversations that are had. A lot of social, political, cultural conversations emanate, in sports at least, emanate from the NBA a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it, I think, so what was awesome about, is two things. What was awesome about the NBA's conversation about mental health is that, and the reason I bring up it being the blackest league is just like that opens a door for a conversation about mental health in the black community, which is a separate conversation in and of itself, which is why I'm going to come back to the therapy thing in a second with you. So let's recognize that the NBA has been having this conversation, And there's a lot of black players opening up about it. DeMar DeRozan, hell, even Paul George most recently talked about the struggles of just being in a bubble. And you know, a lot of people, you know, confine mental health to clinical and diagnosed depression or anxiety. Sometimes it's just your day-to-day well-being, which we talked about with Vinny. We've talked about the last 2 days. As black people, we need therapy. We have generational trauma that is genetically a part of who we are. So there's that. But then on the NFL part, what I love is like, this is true toughness. This is true manhood. This is the epitome of leadership. This is masculinity, is being vulnerable. There's strength in your weakness. Yes. And some of the toughest players, some of the toughest people on the planet opening up and talking about their vulnerability. So I think it takes on a different level of strength, a different level of significance for that discussion to be had in football, in pro football, where you're never supposed to show weakness. And that's that caveman mentality that Skip was bringing to the table. You're never supposed to show weakness or vulnerability, never give an edge. We're talking about a sport that, you know, the injury report is always fake. You know, they lie on the injury report because they don't want to give anybody a competitive advantage. You know,
well,
but
is there a problem
mental,
there? But is there a problem with the league, though? Is there a problem with the league not really producing that type of atmosphere where
it's just the culture of the game? It's just the way they
Dak
make conditions.
Prescott doesn't feel comfortable. Well, I mean, he did. He came out and he said it, but it's amazing that a quarterback in the league would come out and say that, because the NFL generally is not the space.
I don't know if it's the NFL. I don't know if it's the league. I don't know if it's the NFL or the Players Association. I think it's the culture around it, and that's the fans. And I think the fans, the commentary around it, it's not associated with vulnerability or weakness. It's not a weakness. Excuse me. I don't even want to meet anybody. It's not associated with that type of transparency. Okay. Perceived, quote unquote. I want to stress that perceived weakness, because, like, you know, the Players Association has all kinds of programs, but I think they're still catching up to the NBA. To your point, though, when it comes to being at the forefront of that all-important conversation, you know, it's just one of those things where, and going back to the Skip Bayless thing. Listen, man, and I told you this, and our producers are learning this about me. In my entire career, I have never, I don't want to cuss, but what somebody eats don't make me poop. I say that all the time. I am not one of those people that respond to what this talking head said or this loudmouth said or this idiot said. I'm not that dude, man. I don't care. All I care about is what you have to say and what I have to say and what people I respect have to say. That's all I care about. Right. So at first when this came up, and I know we weren't on the air, but I was like, yo, I wouldn't ordinarily respond to something Skip said because I don't listen to Skip. But this was important to respond to. This was important for people to shout down, because those attitudes that Skip brought to the table are the reason why so many people suffer and struggle in shame and in silence. That stigma that Aaron Rodgers was talking about. And so I'm grateful to Skip Bayless for not only exposing yourself, but exposing just how far we have to go as a society for people to not look down upon and judge and stigmatize people who struggle with mental health. Because again, Skip Bayless, whether he knows it or not, what he said might have been meant for harm, but it's been turned into a good, because whether he knows it or not, Skip Bayless saved lives. Skip Bayless changed lives. His ignorance kept the conversation going and let people know you're not alone in this. You're not alone. Like it's okay to come out and share your struggles and express what you're going through and talk to somebody and talk about what you're going through, and don't worry about idiots like this, because there are more people that are here for you and relate to you than that will judge you.
Yeah, I wonder, and you're right, but I wonder how many people will take that, will listen to what he said and listen to that point of view. I don't.
No, it's not that they'll hear what Skip said and look at it that way. I'm talking about what's transpired since then.
I love that part.
That's what I mean.
I got you. I love that Hayden Hurst is going up to Dak Prescott.
Yes.
And they're talking about, hey, let's get
more people wrote about it because of Skip's BS. They wrote about it.
I love what Aaron Rodgers.
It had a life of its own. Yeah.
But here's the thing. This is why this is why I'm saying I wonder if people will take what Skip said and really take it to heart, because the pushback that he got was pretty overwhelming and immediate. And it wouldn't have been like that 10 years ago. I mean, so maybe it's 50-50 10 years ago. But I didn't hear anybody say, Skip brings up an interesting point. I didn't hear anybody say that. So I think we're starting to figure it out that any kind of hood, womanhood, manhood requires bringing all of yourself to a conversation, all of yourself to a situation. It is not, you can't just say, well, a real man would do fill in the blank. That doesn't exist. It depends on, where you grew up and what you're going through and how you perceive situations. And if you are somebody who says, hey, wait a minute, I'm really struggling, I don't think that doesn't take away anything. It doesn't take away your strength. It doesn't take away your perspective. It doesn't take away your resolve. And I think a lot of, well, I shouldn't say that most, but a lot of people are realizing that now. And we didn't always have that conversation. We're
evolving. Still somewhere to go. So I want to go back to, you spoke very eloquently about the value of therapy. If I may ask, do you have a therapist?
You know what, Mike? You can, of course, you said, if I may ask. What do I keep saying about this show? There are no secrets on this show.
I know.
So here's the story. This is what happened. Unfortunately, COVID struck because I made a decision, this year. I said, okay, this is going to be the year. I'm going to go to therapy. I just want to go to therapy. I think it'll be good for me. Just kind of understand some things in my life, deal with some thoughts that I have. I'm going to go to therapy, and then COVID struck. And so I want to do it, and I don't want to meet my therapist for the first time over Zoom. I'm going to rebel against Zoom in that situation, but I am going to do it. And I recommend it.